Hey, good morning. My apologies. We're running a little bit late this morning. We had some technical difficulties, and we're glad you're here. Welcome to I'm the Fort Worth Playboy, and this is the Fort Worth Playboy Morning Show on Tuesday, May 27th, 28th, 2024. That's for my reference later when I'm editing this down. And I thank you that you're here. What do we cover on the Fort Worth Playboy Morning Show? We cover game, pickup, relationships, and sex, and every little derivative of that. We fall under the umbrella of the red pill, which most people are pretty familiar with if you've stumbled upon here. The red pill being MGTOW and men's rights activists and intersexual dynamics, both economic, social, psychological, for lack of a better phrase, the battle of the sexes. Um, and it is more strategic than anything. And then game, which is learn charisma. It's not anything nefarious. It's simply learn charisma. Game teaches men how to have a charming, attractive, seductive personality, which is missing and unfortunately really does affect society as a whole. That we need more charming men. We need more men with charisma. But we show, and I say we, me and my Playboys bunny, when you get to our timeline, we want you to have actionable, tactical tips, tricks, methods, ideas, mindset to help you move a girl from a complete stranger to in your bed and naked and enthusiastic, to LTRs, to running a rotation, to all the way to reigniting the passion in a 20 or 30-year marriage that has a dead bedroom, which Bunny's actually extremely good at. It's a very hard, challenging scope, but she's found herself to be very talented and gifted working with these people. So we always begin with a maxim from Chateau Heartiste, and there were about 200, and we're covering one of the later ones, 102, today. And maxim number 102: nothing interesting would happen in a woman's life if she didn't have a man making it happen. And this is a fact. Women are passive, men are active. We go out into the world and penetrate it and make things happen and create action. And women do not. As like Bunny says, men work on have to. We have to go forward or nothing gets done and we all go hungry and we starve to death. Women are more in the want to mode, that they do things that they want to. And that is the deciding factor, is how they feel about something, whereas men are conditioned to simply do things because they need to be done. Otherwise, they won't be done at all. So women generally, especially in today's modern, like this one guy says, this gay, weak society that we live in today, and it really, really is when you come down to it, men still have to make things happen. And women can lead very boring lives that really centers around charging her phone, eating hot chips, lying, getting abortions. Those are girl hobbies, whereas men have to go forth and work, whether it be for minimum wage or subsistence allowance, or they are paid by the government to carry out duties. But you have to earn your day. You have to earn your keep every day. Whereas women are supported and don't have to actually do it. I mean, even when we're raising kids, like boys, we kind of you're on your own, let's go. And you kick them out of the nest. With girls, they're allowed to stay in the nest until you pass them off to their husband. So, the rules are literally different, and it's for a reason. But nothing interesting would happen in a woman's life. And that's what I try to convey to these guys. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to bother her or not. You're not bothering any girl because she's just waiting for the next text. She's just waiting for the next hinge match. She's just waiting for the next job that her boss is going to call and tell her to do, or errand to run, or, class to go to where she's like getting her degree so she can hurry up and get married and she can quit working. I mean, women live incredibly boring lives. And I've done a number of tweets where I just basically walk you through a girl's day, and it looks nothing like a man's day where you have to kick the covers off and hit the ground running. But nothing really does happen. That's why when I tell guys, you saying hi, you approaching her, you getting into her life is the most interesting thing that will happen for her in that day. I mean, you're the most interesting thing she's seen, because otherwise nothing happens. They are not living our lives, but in a woman's body. They're like, can't go out after dark. They can barely drive. They get lost in their own neighborhood. They can't be alone. They can't even go to the bathroom alone in a restaurant. I mean, you got to think about all these things, how they do things differently that leads to no independence. And that's okay, because they're interdependent. They're dependent upon us. And that's the real deal. So you have to realize that women, literally, without you acting upon them, nothing happens. So again, you have to approach them. You have to ask them out. If you decide to wait, you have to actually have a plan. If you wait for a girl to take action, you'll be waiting forever and you'll become very frustrated. And I've even had guys that come to me, they like, I worked on myself, and I developed this body and I make good money, but why don't girls just come up to me? Well, because they're literally not designed for that. They are trained from birth to not approach men. It's a scary, weird, horrible. It's just not. I mean, even like Bumble, the basis of Bumble was the woman takes the first action, and the first action would be, and this would allow them to only match with the men that they want to match with, or speak with the men that they want to speak with first. But they have such a deeply ingrained aversion to it. All you get is hi or hey or hey. I mean, you really get hey most of the time, or hi. And then you start carrying the conversation like always, which is fine. That's our job. But they actually have done away with it, or that's a plan to get rid of that, because it's so prohibitive to the app working properly. Because women are passive. They are to be acted upon. They are receivers. Again, just like they're designed. Everything about them is passive and for receiving. Men are active and are out penetrating the world, and women. So that's what you have to keep that in mind anytime, especially, nowadays that there's been a period where guys kind of start pulling back. But the guys that didn't pull back did great, and they always will do well. You have to act to make things happen. Women are simply designed to be acted upon. And literally nothing. I mean, you got to think about most girls' hobbies. Their hobbies are like scrolling social media, parking badly, lying, talking to their girl, juggling men, hiding one man from another. These are their hobbies. Whereas, you're training, or, developing your musical skills, or, learning computers. I mean, or even crypto, which you don't want to ever talk about because it's so terrible and boring. But, these are hobbies that are somewhat dynamic and interesting to men, and are actually interesting over time. But most girls don't have hobbies the way that we think of as hobbies or pastimes. And that's, and if they do go, let's say they go to a sports event, they go to a baseball game, or they go to a horse race, if they go without a man, they go to meet men, because that's women's hobbies. So, you could really say that, men are women's hobbies. And from when they're little girls, the first thing, you go to a party and the girls are gossiping about the boys and talking to the boys' moms and talking to their moms about the boys and who's seeing who, or who's going with who and who's the cutest and all this. And the boys are just doing their thing. They're just, fighting, lying, cussing, just, but the girls are not on their radar at all, not till they're like 15, 16, and then kind of intermittently. But from girls from like 6, 7, it's all boys. So just know that they have to be acted upon. I mean, when men are women's hobby, but women are not necessarily. You have to actually consciously, because you have so many balls in the air, focus in. And if you want something to happen, you have to make it happen. And that's the real deal. Remember, nothing interesting would happen in a woman's life if she didn't have a man making it happen. And that's the real deal. If you guys have a question that you would like me to answer to the best of my ability during the broadcast, you'll have to go to YouTube, and in the comments section, you can send it to me. In fact, hang on one second. I need to make sure you have the correct URL. Should you want to know where some of these products are, they're right here at fortworthplayboy.gumroad.com. Every product I mention on here is accessible through there. We have about 25 titles. For Bunny stuff, it's myplayboysbunny.gumroad.com, and all of her titles. In fact, the Fuck Like a Porn Star series is within there, and how to reignite your marriage. That's where you go. And if I ever mention a product, that's where you can find it during this broadcast. A lot of times in our little world, sometimes normal people will kind of filter over. Dudes don't like the idea of some men being more charming than others, or having an inside track on how to meet women or pick them up, and it messes with guys. It's almost like messing with somebody's worldview. For you to be able to, you and I, to be able to move a girl from a complete stranger to in your bed and naked pretty reliably with a system, with an A plus B equals C system. Like literally you plug the girl into the system and you've got like a 70% chance of having sex with her. These are the things that we can build over time, and over a short time too. But when you come from the outside, where girls are a mystery, and how would you say, they are this opaque, impenetrable, you can't understand them. They do their own thing, and I'm just lucky to be with her worldview. When we talk about what we know, it's almost like insulting their religion. So quite often men will say game only works on like damaged women, or low quality women, or women with low self-esteem, and all that, when in fact game works on all women. And it actually is an early warning system to damaged women. Damaged women do not react well to game, because it's basically a healthy action reaction system. We present an action, we present we tease them, and they either laugh because they're healthy, or they take offense to it because they're unhealthy and are damaged. So literally it's a early warning system to avoid damaged women. That's the real deal. It's learned charisma, and charisma works well on healthy women. So saying game doesn't work. You'll always see this all the time. On innocent, naive girls that you would want, is like saying innocent, naive girls are not interested in charming, attractive men. Game is learned charisma. And that's the real deal. The idea of something like charisma, or having a good personality or charm, not working on it, that's like saying that they're not interested in these men or in you. But it doesn't make any sense. It would be like not liking health food. It'd be like not liking things that are the best for you or for your family. It's counterintuitive. So always keep in mind that the facts and, common sense says when you're running game, those that are healthy will react well to this. Those that are unhealthy, it's an early warning system, will react badly to game. And because that's part of it's a product feature, not a bug. You don't want girls that are unhealthy to react well to what what the signals you send out. You want them to send you back a signal that says, I got to get away from this girl. So that's the real deal. Saying game doesn't work is like saying that those things that are good for people, they reject. So it doesn't work on innocent, naive girls that you would want. It's like saying innocent, naive girls are not interested in charming, attractive men. It doesn't make sense, but you're going to hear this. You're going to quite often hear it from people that don't understand what it is or how we're doing it. So don't let it discourage you. You can keep focused and keep doing what you're doing because it works. I've asked this before, and you'll see this in certain parts of the country. You'll see it in the military a lot. You'll see it in San Francisco. You'll see it in for whatever reason, motocross has a lot of this. You'll see it in fitness a lot. The handsome man, unattractive woman combination. It's almost jarring. So what's the name for this phenomenon? He's an athletic 6'3", looks like he plays Olympic volleyball while surfing and modeling part-time. The wife is a soft 3. She's 5'2", appears to guard the underside of medieval bridges for a living while shopping for oversized drab gray sweats. And this simply comes from one morning, Bunny and I were training at the gym, and this guy came in, and he's basically, he kind of like has to duck to get through the doorway, and handsome, built, muscular, and his little wife came in, and she literally looked like a troll. She had on a gray sweat top, and it had it like tied, and so it was just her face. And I was like, it was jarring. She's about 5 foot tall, and built like a pumpkin. And literally, you're like, what the hell am I looking at? So the handsome man, unattractive woman, it can go to extremes, but I don't know if there's a name for it. But we've talked about this before, and that's what I mean. You will see it sometimes. It's much more rare than the huge fat man with the striking wife. This is pretty normal, and you can rank that up to charisma. But there's a phenomenon where you'll see handsome men in certain areas with a much less attractive woman. And in the military, it tends to present itself quite often, mostly because guys come into the military from smaller towns. Their pick of who they bring with them or choose is usually smaller. So they don't have the variety, and she might be their high school sweetheart because, even for lower enlisted, your quality of life goes up exponentially in theory and most of the time for married guys. So, you don't have to live in the barracks. There's more money. There's all kinds of benefits and consistent sex to being married. So you do tend to see handsome, fit, sharp guys with wives 3 to 5 points below them. And it's not unusual. You really, like the dependableness, is a very real thing. So in the military, usually it's you're in an environment where a 3 can be a 6, so your perception skewed. There's fewer women to choose from. And a lot of guys will bring a girl from home, especially if they're relatively new, on their first enlistment. They'll bring an ex-girlfriend or a girlfriend from home and then, marry her. They're usually smaller towns. It's just there's a smaller pool of women to pull from. So that's not unusual. There is a phenomenon, though. You'll see the handsome man and the unattractive woman. There's a picture earlier this week that we presented that was like just this. And like I said earlier, guys, if you have any questions, this is the time to present it, because after this show, I'll be going to the question of the day, but it's its own show. And it's kind of hard for me to take questions during that one. When you approach a girl, when you open, be it by text, on an app, in person, don't let her lack of initial enthusiasm throw you. The majority of girls are quiet when you first meet. I have to convey this to guys, to men that are especially just starting out in game. You don't have any instincts yet. You don't have enough interaction with women to work off of how you feel, or you don't have any history. You haven't had enough practice or exchanges with women to really start reading yet. You don't know the difference between a shy girl, a quiet girl, a quiet at first girl, which is like 90% of women. 90% of women will be quiet at first, maybe even higher than that. Or she's disinterested, or she's socially inept. I mean, there's a spectrum of what can be nailed. But the problem is, especially when you're relatively new, you need to push and stick in there after the initial. You're going to have to work. Even if she's not showing you any indicators of interest just yet, girls take time to warm up, because they're always being hit on by someone, somewhere, and they're conditioned to be reserved. And it's just the way they are. Again, 99% of women are shy at first. They'll tell you that. And they can be a stripper. They can be an OF girl. They can have had 1,000 boyfriends. But when you meet them, or you're trying to start a conversation, they'll tell you this down the road. Yeah, I'm kind of shy at first. And that's and so you have to work through that. You have to give it some time. One, they're almost all shy at first, because they're kind of gun shy too, because they get hit on and they don't want things to go south. So they're very polite and they just kind of go along with it. But you have to stick in there long enough to where you either get a yes or a no, or they just wander off. You have to practice, and you have to stick in there long enough. That's the real deal. And you'll see after a few minutes, they start warming up. They'll start showing some indications of interest. They'll stay engaged. They won't be looking at their phone, looking around. So you will discern over time girls that are interested and girls that aren't interested, or are just like conditioned socially to be rude. And you want to avoid them as well. So don't let her lack of initial enthusiasm throw you. Almost no girl will be like engaged immediately. There's a few reasons. Like I said, one, they're getting hit on a lot. And two is they're getting hit on a lot by a lot of betas and guys that are kind of weird. And the girl, and Bunny clued me into this, they're like, they don't know how much time this guy, this weirdo, is going to take up of her life at that moment. So they're reserved. They're like holding back in case they have to like make an escape, because they don't want to spend the next 5 minutes talking to this loser. So when you present yourself and you're somebody of interest and you have charisma and you have game, and you are someone they would be or will become interested in, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a minute or two for them to go, oh, this guy is interesting, because the vast majority of men are not interesting. So when you're coming along, it's different. So there's a lag time. You can even see, if you ever go to YouTube and watch like street pickup, you can always pull stuff. Just like you can watch comedy shows and pull from that, you can also watch where they do street pickup. And you may never stop a girl on the street, which is fine, but you can use it in your like online game. You can use it in your social circle game, use it in your work game. But there's almost always a lag time between when he stops her and when she becomes more engaged. It's usually a minute or 2 minutes where she's kind of like discombobulated or caught off guard, and she's shifting gears. And then this guy is actually pretty interesting, and it's now the best thing that's happened to her all day. So you have to watch these things and watch the light go on in her eyes after he says a certain phrase or he's there long enough, and she realizes this guy's not just wasting her time. But you have to expect it, that she's not going to be enthusiastic from the get-go. Just know that there's a lag time. Don't let her lack of initial enthusiasm throw you. Majority of girls are quiet when you first meet. You have to kind of overcome that and then get some momentum going. And you'll get better at this over time, where you guys go, you'll hear these guys that are veterans going next. It means they're better at discerning yes girls from no girls. He's looking for yes girls, and he can usually figure out pretty quick if she's a yes girl or a no girl. But you don't have those skills. Not yet. It takes time. It takes time and repetitions, just like going to the gym. And that's a real deal. Don't let it throw you. You got to stick in there long enough to where you're getting a definite yes or a definite no. Next slide. Remember the fundamentals of game. This is through Chateau Hartiste. Remember the fundamentals of game recently discussed here at the Chateau. Be aloof, amuse mastery. Don't be insecure, irrational self-confidence. Dehumanize and objectify women. Do not put any pussy on a pedestal. Reread those fundamentals out loud. Taken together, what are they really saying? They're saying, I am the prize. I do not seek the approval of any woman. She will instead want to seek my approval. You flip the script. Or in simple caveman language, she chases me. Chateau Hartiste. One thing that I wanted to point out, because when I put this up, is that third point is super important to discern, where it says dehumanize and objectify women. It can come across as negative, and people can see it as such when it's simply the language and the frame that is presented at. But the primary thing is, again, ignore her beauty. And this is a fundamental or commandment of Poon, is do not put any pussy on a pedestal. She doesn't want to be on a pedestal. So your frame of mind has to shift over to where she's interchangeable, and she can stick around or she can walk away, and your feet are going to be tapping. You're as happy as a lark when you were happy when she showed up. You're happy that she's there. And if she decides to not be there, you'll be happy the rest of the day anyway. So you have to kind of like tone down their uniqueness and their beauty. And that's, again, like why we say ignore her beauty. And so definitely should not be seen as a negative when we say dehumanize and objectify women. Women like to be objectified. I mean, just kind of like when you start banging a girl, and you make sexual comments and they just laugh and giggle and piss their pants sometimes. They like to be objectified. They're not going to admit to it, and that's okay. They're going to deny this, so don't ask. But that's what they actually react well to. So remember the fundamentals of game. Be aloof. Amuse mastery. They're like a child. All women are at about 17 or 18 mentally their entire life. And I don't care if they're 18, 28, 38, 58. They're all children. So when you treat them that way and you expect that type of behavior out of them, you won't be surprised. You won't get caught off guard, and you'll be able to manage them better. Don't be insecure. Irrational self-confidence. You're always a step ahead. Anything you do is fine. And anything that they don't like, that's their problem. That's irrational self-confidence. And it is alluring and attractive to women. Again, because they'll appear to have confidence, but they don't at the end of the day. They're not sure because they're reacting to everything around them, how they feel. And again, dehumanize and objectify women. Treat them like a silly plaything and you'll have better results. Don't take anything they say seriously. Don't take anything they do seriously. Everything they do is silly, inconsequential to you, and funny. So they would prefer, because they know this, but if you take them seriously, they'll punish you for it. Again, remember that everything that you do wrong isn't just met with a neutral. You're going to be punished for it. So when you reread these fundamentals out loud, taken together, they're really saying, I am the prize. Don't seek approval from any woman. You're moving through the world and she wants to get on your train. Great. If she wants to get off, that's fine. But this train is still moving forward. You're still going where you're going to go. You're still on mission, and you're going to have other passengers. She will instead want to seek your approval. Again, in the beginning, women are conditioned to not approach men, not to make things happen. You have to make things happen. You have to approach women. You have to ask them out. You have to make sex happen. You all the way up to making sex happen 3 or 4 times to lock them in sexually in that first week, and then you're kicking back to 1 time a week. That's when she starts to chase you. Momentum changes the moment sex starts. Usually 3 or 4 times. Once isn't going to be enough. Okay, one night stands are not carrying enough weight. You have to reach out within a couple of days and have sex again. Have sex 3 or 4 times that first week, lock them in sexually. Then you'll see them begin to reach out to you more often. They'll have more interest in you. They'll want to, and this is what's happening. Before you have sex, she's trying to find a reason to not fuck you. Anything you say, do, the ick and all that other nonsense, that's a reason not to add to her numbers of men that she's fucked. You know, she's already at 50, so what's 51, we think, but to her it matters. So she's looking for a reason all the way up until you guys have sex, for a reason, including last minute resistance, not to have sex with you. After you guys start having sex regularly, she has to justify it in her mind why she's having sex with you. Everything that you start to do, no matter how bad it is interesting to her. Because that's how you'll see these guys that keep it nice. They stay a mystery. She doesn't know a lot about them. They're still having sex 6-7 months down the road. And she'll say, I don't even know if he likes me. And she's chasing him. She's having to justify through whatever he does that it's a good thing. It's attractive. It's something that she would want. So again, the momentum completely changes when sex happens. The ball is in her court. All the marbles, every stupid saying you can think of where she's in possession is before sex. Then after sex, the momentum changes directions where it's almost all in the men's favor and she's chasing. And there will be instances where girls, have gone through a breakup, or they're just in like an experimental phase, or they're under 25 and they just want to have fun, where they'll be less apt to chase, but just know that it's where they're at mentally. You may be one and done, and that's okay too, but you don't know that till you get there. So generally, the vast majority, after you've had sex 3 or 4 times, they'll start becoming more comfortable for reaching out to you, making suggestions on how to get together. They'll make it easier for you. So just know that you got to work. You're going to work in the beginning to make things happen. You have to. And then after sex starts, the momentum changes to she chases you. So that's the real deal. And if you're interested in this, you can find the best of Chateau Heartiste, the best of Chateau Heartiste 2, and the best of Chateau Heartiste 3. And there's a bundle for all 3 for one price in the FortWorthPlayboy.gumroad.com. If you're interested in any of his stuff, and it's one of the best mind, how to get your mind right when it comes to game. Books are the three that are bundled together. It just kept getting better. You got the best, and the best. And this is stuff that I started saving like 7 or 8 years ago when I discovered Chateau, and I knew that it wasn't going to stay out there. It was going to eventually go away, so it needed to be preserved. That's the real deal. And I don't see any questions. It is a Tuesday morning. Everybody's going back to work. We've been on for 35 minutes. If you have any questions, you can email me at fortworthplayboy@gmail.com. You can go through the consult form. I would prefer questions not be asked through the consult form. If you want to consult, that would be the proper form to use if you're requesting a consult. Otherwise, use Fort Worth Playboy just like it's written all the way out. fortworthplayboy@gmail.com for questions. Just put question in the subject box. That way I can prioritize it. And I can get your question answered either on the question of the day, or I can get your question answered during a broadcast. We will be at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, Central Standard Time, and then back at 7 on Thursday. In Brick City, you're welcome. I appreciate you guys watching. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell from here who's viewing. It's like a one-way street. But I appreciate your time. Your time is valuable. I hope you took something away from this, and I hope you guys have a great day.